Dallas, Texas, September 2000. Two men sit in a conference room waiting to find out if their company will exist next year. Across the table sits one of the most powerful retail executives in America, a man who runs 9,000 stores, a man whose company touches 60 million customers. The two men aren't here to negotiate from strength. They're here to beg. They offer him their entire company, every asset, every subscriber, every line of code. The price? $50 million. He doesn't counter. He doesn't ask for a night to think it over. According to both men in that room, he laughs. Not a polite laugh, the kind that ends a conversation before it's finished. That laugh would go down as one of the most expensive sounds in business history, because the company he just dismissed would eventually be worth over $150 billion. And his company, the empire with 9,000 stores, would collapse to a single location, kept open today mostly as a museum piece and a punchline. You know this story. Blockbuster said no. Netflix said watch me. But here's what almost nobody tells you. 11 years after that meeting, Netflix did something Blockbuster never could. It nearly destroyed itself. Not through bad luck, not through a smarter competitor, through its own decisions made in 23 days by the same man who'd just been laughed out of a boardroom and swore he'd never be underestimated again. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the very thing that saves a company is often the exact thing that almost kills it. Before the empire, before the red envelope in every American mailbox, there was a company running out of time. The year is 2000. The dot-com bubble is bursting in real time, wiping tech startups off the map by the week, like a tide dragging the sand out from under everyone standing on the beach. Netflix has roughly 300,000 subscribers. It is losing money on almost every one of them. Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph, the founders, board a flight to Dallas with a single objective: not growth, not ambition, survival. Their pitch to Blockbuster CEO John Antioco is elegant in its simplicity. Blockbuster keeps the stores. Netflix runs everything online. Together, the two companies own video rental in every form it could possibly take. Antioco listens. Then he asks the number. $50 million. Silence. A beat too long. Then the laughter starts. Antioco isn't looking at two men holding the future in their hands. He's looking at a niche mail-order business that can't turn a profit, asking for a price that to a man doing billions in annual revenue sounds almost insulting. Here's what should unsettle you about this moment. Antioco wasn't a fool. He'd built one of the most dominant retail machines in American history, and every instinct that got him there was screaming that this deal wasn't worth his time. That's exactly the trap. The threats that end empires almost never look like threats walking in the door. They look small enough to laugh at. Hastings and Randolph fly home with nothing. No deal, no lifeline, just a company on the edge of collapse and a decision to keep building the exact thing a man with 9,000 stores had just told them was worthless. That decision is now taught in business schools on nearly every continent. But notice the instinct hiding underneath it, the refusal to fold, the willingness to trust their own conviction when literally no one else in the room did. That instinct just saved Netflix from Blockbuster. 11 years later, it would nearly finish the job Blockbuster couldn't. Jump forward to 2011. This is not the company that flew home defeated from Dallas. Streaming is exploding. Subscribers are pouring in by the millions. Wall Street doesn't talk about Reed Hastings like a founder anymore. They talk about him like a prophet, the man who saw the future of entertainment before anyone else had the nerve to bet on it. And this is exactly the moment he makes the decision that nearly erases everything he built. July, Netflix announces it's splitting its DVD by mail and streaming plans into two separate subscriptions. Customers who want both are suddenly paying almost 60% more. 2 months later, Netflix goes further, much further. It announces it's spinning the entire DVD by mail business into its own company. New website, new login, new brand. They call it Quickster. Picture the internet that week. The name becomes a punchline within hours, instantly compared to Coca-Cola's infamous New Coke disaster. Comedians pile on. Customers who have never once complained about Netflix are suddenly furious, staring down the prospect of juggling 2 logins, 2 accounts, 2 bills for a service that used to ask nothing of them at all. 23 days later, Netflix kills Quickster. Reed Hastings admits publicly that the plan was a mistake. 23 days sounds fast. It sounds like damage control working exactly as intended. It isn't nearly fast enough, because 23 days is more than enough time for panic to metastasize through a stock market. And what happens next stops being a PR problem. It becomes a body count. Here's what almost no one understood while it was happening in real time. Netflix wasn't being punished for raising prices. Companies raise prices constantly and survive just fine. Netflix was being punished for breaking a promise it had never once put into words. Every subscription business runs on an invisible contract. I will not make your life harder in exchange for your money. From day one, Netflix's entire identity had been built on the opposite of friction. One login, one price, everything you wanted in one place with zero effort. Quickster shattered that contract overnight. Customers weren't just paying more, they were being told to manage 2 separate websites for a service that used to require nothing but a click. Behavioral economists have a name for what happens when a brand you trust suddenly demands more effort for the same reward. It isn't annoyance, it's re-evaluation. The customer stops asking, "Is this worth the price?" and starts asking something far more dangerous. Why am I even here? Multiply that question across millions of households and you don't get frustration, you get an exodus. Third quarter 2011, Netflix loses roughly 800,000 subscribers, the first decline in the company's history. Inside Netflix's headquarters in Las Gatas, employees who had spent years watching that number only ever climb are now watching it fall, live, with no company precedent for what comes next. Then, earnings day arrives. Wall Street doesn't wait for context. The stock, trading near $300 a share only months earlier, drops roughly 35% in a single session, closing at $77.37. Headlines that had spent years crowning Hastings a genius are now openly asking whether Netflix will survive the year. Within months, more than 75% of the company's entire market value is gone. The man once celebrated as the person who saw the future before anyone else on Earth is now, by every metric the market uses for success, the person who nearly destroyed his own creation in under a month. Certainty had made Reed Hastings famous. It was now the thing threatening to erase him. Here's the part that should genuinely change how you see this entire story. Netflix didn't almost collapse because of one bad call. Companies survive bad calls constantly. Netflix almost collapsed because the exact trait that built the company became the trait that nearly ended it. Hastings was right about streaming. He'd been right for years, long before the rest of the industry took him seriously. But being right about the destination has never once guaranteed you're right about the pace of the journey. He moved on his own clock, not his customers'. He fractured a brand people loved before those people were emotionally ready to let go of what they already trusted. Conviction without patience doesn't stay conviction for long. It quietly curdles into arrogance, and arrogance is the one flaw a person can never spot in themselves while they're standing inside it. Look closer and you'll see the pattern repeating. This is the same trap that caught Blockbuster 11 years earlier, wearing a different mask. Blockbuster's confidence in its own dominance blinded it to a threat too small to take seriously. Netflix's confidence in its own vision blinded it to a customer base that wasn't ready to be dragged forward at founder speed. 2 companies, 2 different decades, one identical blind spot. The same certainty that makes you great is the same certainty that stops you from noticing you've gone too far. So what actually separated them? It was never the mistake itself. Blockbuster made theirs and never came back. Netflix made theirs and clawed its way back in weeks. The difference lived entirely in what happened next, in the hours after the mistake became too big to be denied. Hastings didn't defend the decision. He didn't blame the media for missing his vision, or the customers for failing to understand where he was taking them. Within days, he published a public apology, admitting Netflix had moved too fast and explained too little. Quickster was killed before it ever fully launched. The price changes stayed, but the fracture at the center of the brand was sealed as most quickly as it had opened. That single choice, eating public humiliation instead of defending a private decision, might be the most underrated moment in the entire Netflix story. There's no villain in this scene, no dramatic confrontation, just a founder deciding in real time whether his company would become a cautionary tale or a comeback. He chose correctly.
Within a year, Netflix releases its first original series, doubling down on the exact strategy that had almost drowned under its own overreach. The stock recovers. The subscriber base doesn't just return, it eventually multiplies past 200 million people across the planet. The same company that once begged Blockbuster to take it off their hands for $50 million becomes one of the most valuable media companies alive. Not because it never made a catastrophic mistake, because it moved fast enough to admit the mistake before it hardened into identity. Here's the reframe worth carrying with you. We tell the Blockbuster story like it's a lesson about failing to see the future coming. But the Quickster story reveals something far more uncomfortable. Seeing the future clearly was never what saved Netflix. Reed Hastings saw streaming's dominance before almost anyone else alive on Earth, and it nearly bankrupted his own company anyway. Vision was never the rare part. Almost everyone who has ever built something believed at some point that they could see exactly where the world was headed. What's actually rare, what actually separates the people and companies who last from the ones history forgets, is the discipline to slow down and read the room you're standing in, even while you're certain about the room you're walking toward. Blockbuster died because it refused to believe the future was coming for it. Netflix nearly died because it refused to believe the present still had a vote. Two opposite mistakes, one identical lesson. And it has nothing to do with streaming or DVDs or Silicon Valley. Being right about where you're going has never once protected anyone from moving too fast to get there. Somewhere, right now, someone brilliant is making the exact same mistake Reed Hastings made. Mistaking their certainty about tomorrow for permission to ignore what everyone around them is feeling today. If watching conviction almost destroy the very company it built changed the way you think about certainty, subscribe. The next story is about the exact moment certainty turns into the most dangerous thing a person can own.